We're here to talk about Echinacea. It's been used for all sorts of things, and it is an absolute go-to that in a mix for immune if someone's got coughs and colds and flus. It is a great way of staying on top of or getting rid of that cold and flu in a safe way, as long as we're including that rest and all of the other things that go along with getting better from illnesses. When we're able to change the lifestyle, change the foods, do all of those things and add the herbs, we get these amazing results, don't we? Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a Mentoring with Geraldine, the bite-sized podcast. And we've got Christine with us from the Herbal Extract Company based in Sydney. And you all know how much I love my herbs, and we're here again to talk about Echinacea. And I'm sure everybody has heard about Echinacea. Everybody knows about Echinacea. It's got to be one of the herbs on the top of the list. There's actually three that we look at and we use as herbalists, and it's a fantastic herb. We use it for our coughs and colds and everything else. But Christine, would you like to tell us more about Echinacea and all of its different ones? Angustifolia, purpura, and palata.
We make three different types. So this one's that's Echinacea purpurea. I mean, you can't see much on the bottle, but I have that raw material here.
And what's different with the purpurea?
So that's the whole plant. So it's roots and the aerial parts together. Right. And yeah, that one. So I did my herbal highlight on Echinacea angustifolia, and that is the root. So we have that one here. And again, I mean, the bottles all look the same. So there we have
much harder.
You can see the difference. I can hold.
Yeah. So we've got a purpurea, we've got a much lighter group because we've got the whole plant, whereas with the angustifolia, it is just the root.
Yeah, you can see much more the roots. And then the blend is a blend of the purpurea and the angustifolia. So we have 60% purpurea and 40% angustifolia. And that is here. That must be, that's... I'm just wondering, because they were put in front of the bottles, and perhaps that one's actually the purpurea. And this one is like more the roots here.
Oh, yeah.
There's a blend of the angustifolia and purpurea roots, and then this one is probably the whole plant purpurea there. So you can see there's a big difference.
There is in size, colour.
Yeah. And then that one is the angustifolia.
Yeah, which is much hardier.
Yeah, so quite different. And I think with the angustifolia, it's much harder to grow. Yeah. And therefore more expensive.
Right. And it's the root as well. So you're taking the plant out to use the base of it rather than the whole plant as you are with the purpurea. So is the research, is that across all of them? Is that across combined, or is that just really in the angustifolia?
Yeah, I think what happened was the Eclectics, they were using the angustifolia. And then the Germans, I think they came across the purpurea. Right. It was easier to grow. Yeah. So they did a whole heap of research on purpurea. Right. So it's all just several different plants in the same genus, Echinacea, and it was just different countries, really.
Yeah. Europe to America.
But angustifolia was sort of the original that was used by the Eclectics, who were the group of practitioners prominent, in the late 19th to 20th century in the United States. Yep. So they used that as one of their primary herbs for septicemia, infected blood, wounds, and so they used to use it in large frequent doses every sort of half hour to hour. Wow. And I think some practitioners might use it, if someone shows signs of being sick, infection, that is a good way to prescribe it. Yeah, using the higher dose in the short term rather than the high dose over a longer term. Yeah. Often spreading, even if you use a lower dose, even if you spread that dose over the whole day. So there's that constant contact with the mucous membranes, but because that's the thing with Echinacea, isn't it? It's got that sort of spicy taste to it. And so when you're putting it in contact with
Yeah, you've got that. Yeah, the zing. You've got, when you're putting it in contact, you actually get that, you will get it, the immune part going over the mucous membranes, and that you're really going to taste it, you're going to feel it. And if it's going to then increase the general immune system function, then as it touches, it's going to support that changeover. It's going to, the zing itself will probably get rid of some of the bugs anyway. And then we've got that enhanced immune function, and taking it even small amounts very regularly over the day when you first start getting sick is probably a great way of taking the Echinacea. I remember years ago, there was a study, and I can't remember where I found it, read it, or anything else, but they gave everyone who was getting on an aeroplane, on a large aeroplane, not that anyone's done that in 2020, but on a large aeroplane, they gave everyone Echinacea, and on another airplane, there might have been half of them on the airplane got Echinacea, the other half didn't. And then the ones who took the Echinacea were all followed up afterwards, and they did get colds, because airplanes, of course, are a great breeding ground for illness, because everybody's stuffed in a tin can, and it was a long-haul international flight. And those that had the Echinacea recovered faster and didn't have symptoms as badly. So as long as those people were actually spread out over the airplane, it could actually be considered a decent research study, because you've got 300 and something people on an airplane. But if you only gave the Echinacea to everyone in first class, then that wouldn't count.
I'd love to find that study, actually.
It was years ago, and I do not know where I heard about it, read it, or anything else. But I thought, that it's a great way of doing it. You've really got a group of people who are all together doing nothing, and if you can get them all to take an Echinacea and you can contact them afterwards, then you're doing really well. So but I mean, it's been used for all sorts of things, and it is an absolute go-to that in a mix for immune if someone's got coughs and colds and flus. I mean, I'm not sure that I would be treating anybody with sepsis. I think probably they'd go to the hospital. Yeah. Wouldn't be the best place for them.
Back in the day, they used to treat all those things, didn't they?
Yeah, but back in the day, there wasn't antibiotics. I mean, they didn't come out until the Second World War, so there wasn't anything for sepsis prior to then. So if Echinacea was able to support them back in the day, then that would have been fantastic. And wounds.
We used to talk about it for snake bite too, and it's like,
yeah. I don't know. I'd want to try it for a brown snake. I think I'd want to head to. I saw a snake the other day actually. I think I'd want to head. If I was bitten by a snake, I would want to head straight. An Australian snake, especially. I'd be heading straight to the hospital, because the Eclectics were in America, and they do have completely different snake species to us in Australia. So, and European snakes, of course, are only the adder. So we don't have quite such an awful result as we would with a black or a brown snake, like we would in Australia. Just so I clear that one up, so nobody rushes out and thinks they can use Echinacea for a snake bite. Don't do that. Go to the hospital.
Old school traditional use.
Yeah, these are traditional uses we're talking about, people. So, we want to use it, preventing those colds and flus. But when we've got them, it is a great way of staying on top of or getting rid of that cold and flu in a safe way, as long as we're including that rest and all of the other things that go along with getting better from illnesses. I mean, it's a great herb, and now we know that we can use it in all these different, we can use angustifolia, we can use purpurea, we can use a combination product like you guys produce, and it's a 1-in-1 as well. So it is actually a relatively low dose, because it's a 1-in-1. The Eclectics would have been using a 1-in-5 or a 1-in-10. Like if I was to make it at home, I'd be making a 1-in-10. So it's a very similar, if I was using a 1-in-10, I could certainly dose it at higher dose over a longer period, whereas a 1-in-1 I just don't need to. A lower dose regularly, sipping that regularly, is really going to support recovery and speed up recovery. So,
and good for prevention too, for respiratory infection, which
it's a great coming into winter sort of herb that you need to make sure that kids going to school and all of those places where the bugs proliferate. It's a great one to have on board. And the other thing about it you mentioned in your monograph and your highlight was to help promote lymphatic drainage, which I hadn't really thought of, but of course it will, because it's great for colds and flus, and that's
it's a really good alterative. It's one of the actions, to alter our state. So, or the traditional term for alterative was blood cleanser, which obviously has different connotations, but yeah, that was, is that lymphatic drainage really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it promotes that, and it's also good for candida thrush.
Which did not know. So yeah. So that would, I mean, that's a great use. Anything that helps with candida, which is really common, and women put up with it a lot, and they often head for medication, not realizing, of course, there's a lot of diet change involved and behavioral change as well. But it's one of those, it's the mucous membranes that it's supporting, and it's supporting that healing and recovery with the mucous membranes. So if it's, your general immune function, your lymphatics, your coughs and colds and flus, and the candida, we know that it's doing this systemically. It's working systemically as well, because it's working through the whole body. I always think of Echinacea working well with other herbs as well. I don't know, I wouldn't take it as a simple, I mean, you could certainly take it as a simple, 100% you could. But apart from that spicy Echinacea taste, which is a bit special, I wouldn't be wanting to take it by itself over a whole day because of that spice. I'd be wanting to put it with those other, I'd actually add it to a Yep formula, your yarrow, alder and peppermint, and add that Echinacea, and you can have it as that tea over the day if you're unwell. And that's really going to support the homeostasis and support recovery from sickness. So, and avoid it. If you had one of those, if you had Echinacea tea and, after work every day, there's the opportunity there to be supporting that immune system long term. Because there was some discussion there for a while that Echinacea replaced or did something else to the immune system. There was some discussion, and it was, no, guys, no. All it's doing is supporting your innate immunity.
Yeah, it's modulating,
modulating, and it's not creating or doing anything. It's modulating. And so it's supporting what's going on in your body anyway. It's not replacing. It's not, it's not going to ruin you if you had it on a daily basis as a tea. It's a wonderful herb all up.
That beautiful flower.
It is beautiful flower. Good
one for the garden.
And it grows easily, or the purpurea does anyway, not necessarily the angustifolia.
Yes, exactly.
So and you've mentioned another study in your highlight around the anxiety.
Yes, so it's not something you think of Echinacea for, but often I'll come across studies where they're trying to find, not usually, they're trying to find a pharmaceutical drug for something, or and they find this action, but they so that the gold standard of trial is the double-blind placebo-controlled trial. So, and this was done last year, and they found that Echinacea angustifolia can help decrease anxiety in adults. So, and there's been some earlier preclinical studies that have suggested that, which led them to, to doing this trial. So they took 40 milligrams of Echinacea twice a day for 7 days.
Right.
And there would have been tests, they used their anxiety.
Yeah.
But so that's something, to think of it. I guess if someone has got, infection or prone to infections, or even because it's a lymphatic drain, it's an alterative herb, it's good in acne. So, if someone who's got, say, teenage acne, and they're stressed about, their self-esteem, or, possibly help with the anxiety as well.
Yeah. So it's a real combo herb, working on all of these areas that, you start. That's the thing with herbs, isn't it? When they're made individually by the herbalist or naturopath for the client, they're choosing all of these different herbs, and you're putting, 5 is sort of an Australian thing to put 5 herbs in, but generally, 8 is fine. I'll put up to 8 in a mix, and I do quite a low dose, and it means that you can choose all these different ones. Your client with acne has got other things going on. It's never just acne, because the skin, the lymph, the skin is the largest excretory organ. So it's just saying what's going on inside. Yeah. And so when we're able to change the lifestyle, change the foods, do all of those things, and add the herbs, we get these amazing results, don't we? Yeah. So,
and it reminded me when you said, putting 8 or so in, Lindsay Shoom, who started the Herbal Extract Company, is in his 80s now.
Yep.
He, the way he used to prescribe, like he'd have a kidney mix, a liver mix, he would mix, the old school herbalists used to make up a kidney mix which had 5 herbs in it.
Yep.
And then like a liver mix which had 5 herbs, and they'd put them all together.
Yeah.
So in the mix you'd have a few of the different mixes. So goodness knows how many herbs they had. Yeah. But it's the synergy of the herbs working together. Yeah. I guess is where you're looking at that, being beneficial.
Yep. Yep. So that synergy of all of those herbs and making sure that we've covered the needs of that client, and it's so individualized. Herbal medicine is so individualized to every person. So that's wonderful. So is there anything that we've missed about?
No, I mean, it's very brief. There's a lot more we could talk about with Echinacea. That's what I covered in the highlight when I wrote it. How, just the modern interest is mainly on its immunomodulatory properties. Yep. Particularly in the prevention and treatment of upper respiratory tract infection. Yeah, it's a wonderful herb for that. I use it a lot. So I go through bottles of it. Bottles and bottles of the stuff. So it's a great one for the lungs and all the mucous membrane area. So well, thank you very much for joining us again. It's been lovely to chat with you, and I look forward to speaking with you again next time.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.